A pleasant day to everyone. While it was my fervent desire to be with you today and deliver to you my talk in person, unfortunately, for some constraints I cannot control, I am not able to do so. However, I hope that with this digital presentation, I am able to do justice to the task assigned to me. As connections may also be erratic, I prefer to do a recorded presentation instead. And so before anything else, allow me to thank the organizers of this conference for giving me this opportunity to humbly present my talk. As an advocate and a practitioner of e-learning, my talk will center on e-learning both as an enabler and lever of education. To give structure to my discussion, I will be focusing it along four areas. In the first agenda, I will try to discuss how e-learning is positioned in the fourth industrial revolution era. In the second agenda, I will try to evaluate and present the enablers of e-learning. And when we talk of enablers, we are actually referring to the elements or the people that facilitates the e-learning process. Next, I will present the levers of e-learning. These are actually the drivers that can effectively influence the successful implementation of e-learning. And lastly, I will present some brief perspectives on what might be innovations in education that we are prospectively looking at in the near future. With technology rapidly changing our economic, our cultural, and social realities, the question as to how to prepare the younger or even the current generation for the fourth industrial revolution has been a pressing issue for contemporary higher education. The fourth industrial revolution, as we all know, refers to how technologies like AI or the artificial intelligence, the autonomous vehicles, and the IoT or the Internet of Things are merging with humans' physical lives. Let's think of voice-activated assistants, the facial ID recognition, or the digital healthcare sensors. These are manifestations of the fourth industrial revolution era. Klaus Schwab, the founder and executive director of the World Economic Forum, argued that these technological changes are drastically altering how individuals, how companies, and even governments operate, ultimately leading to a societal transformation that is similar now to the previous industrial revolution. While there have been debates about whether current developments in technology are the late part of the third industrial revolution, it is increasingly clear that the rapid development of technology has already changed the economic and also our social and cultural status quo. In spite of the fact that we are starting to discuss the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, our educational infrastructure has been painfully slow to adapt to technological advances and their impact in the academic life. So it seems that the educational infrastructure now is actually late in adapting to these changes. So now, some of the nagging questions to us as educators are the following. Now, how do we educate for the fourth industrial revolution? Are our education systems and programs relevant to the fourth industrial revolution? And if not, how do we reconstruct our education systems so that they are? To add to these complications, let us reflect a bit on a research conducted in March 2015 by the World Economic Forum. This research outlines some of the technological tipping points that are expected to occur by year 2025. Now, after surveying over 800 experts and executives of the technology sector, asking them to share their predictions on what to expect from the development of technologies, some of the results were summarized as follows. Let's look a bit at the slides. Okay, these are just snippets. There are more tipping points. The likeliness of occurrence is actually presented as a percentage. We note, however, that with the advancement of technology in the last 2 years, it is more likely that these results to occur much earlier than 2025. Now, we actually feel some of them now. Not only The government and the businesses, but also the educational sectors, should now keep up with the changes that technology development and the fourth industrial revolution bring if they want now to develop the future workers of the nation that are competitive enough and one that aligns now with the pace and requirements of such alteration. Before delving into how we can now cope with the changes, let us have a brief glimpse of the global change trends to respond now to the fourth industrial revolution. Now, first of all, adaptability is more critical to success than ever. The importance of the user experience is actually growing and growing. New workplace is also expected, with leaning now towards remote modalities. Now, the dominating technologies that we see at the moment are the AR, the VR, the IoT, and AI. And as the amount of data increases, big data management and analytics will become more important. And finally, for horizontal communication and collaboration, we need to note that the destruction of the silo organization. Seeing these global changes, we also look at educational environmental changes in the fourth industrial revolution era. It's an important positioning factor or consideration of e-learning enablers and levers. So as you can see on the screen, the environmental changes surrounding education are as follows. So we realize the shock of low birth rate and aging. Question is, what does this imply to our supply, to our labor supply? There are also huge changes underway that will create now a massive displacement of workers or the emergence of new opportunities. So as countries ride the technological wave, they must also ensure that it does not create polarization and deeper inequality. We also realize that we now have an ability-driven society, that there is a large transformation of knowledge ecosystem, and that there is coexistence of AI and human. Given all this, we are now confronted with a very, very big question. How do we keep up with this progress? This slide presents key action areas that can be taken to address the transformation of education systems. We must have future-ready curricula. We must consider professional teaching workforce. There must be early exposure to the workplace. Digital fluency is now at work. A new deal on lifelong learning must be considered, and there should be openness to education innovation. Now, in the context of e-learning levers and enablers, I am considering the first three as the enablers, take-off point for e-learning program development and implementation, and the last three as the levers, take-off point for e-learning development and implementation. Taking off from our earlier discussions of the action points, we can now present some of the enablers of e-learning and some levers of e-learning. Again, as defined earlier, when we talk of enablers, these are now the people, the mechanisms, or the structures that allow successful implementation of e-learning. When we talk of levers of e-learning, these are now the technologies, the tools, and innovation that drives successful implementation of e-learning. As an enabler of e-learning, the developed curriculum as well as how this should be implemented must now draw upon new theories of learning. This can include heutagogy, pedagogy, cybergogy. It must also be able to address the needs for new forms or diversity of learning such as smart learning, mobile learning as you can see from the slide, or flipped learning among others. Again, we can see from this slide that the new future-ready core curriculum can now have the following manifestations from creative expressions to critical problem solving. Another enabler of e-learning is anchored on the competencies and skills of the instructor. The instructors or the teachers need to relearn and equip themselves with the digital skills and competencies to meet now the dynamic learning preference of the learners. Beyond actually these technical and technological skills, the teachers as well must be able to impart to the students the skills that they need to have in order for them to be able to join the workforce. So as you can see from the slides, these are the top skills that are needed. And so to be able to do that, the teachers as well must possess and or advocate the same skills. New technologies are creating opportunities to make immersive learning more experiential. creating now the opportunity to transport people into an environment or situation where they are engaged at greater depth than previously possible. Now, more deeply, immersive learning is now possible through e-learning, allowing a practical delivery of meaningful learning experiences. Still, a discussion on the enabler of e-learning, in particular the lifelong learning, we see that the fourth industrial revolution will require a workforce with a wide range of deep knowledge and easily transferable skills. The World Economic Forum estimated that 65% of today's elementary school students might ultimately work in jobs that don't exist even today. Therefore, it's essential that tomorrow's workers not only have a broad range of skills, but understand how to gain new ones. Now, they must become adept at lifelong learning. And the concepts of lifelong learning is an enabling factor for developing future e-learning materials. Still on the discussion of enablers of e-learning, this time we look at digital fluency. So as defined, digital fluency is the ability to select and use the appropriate digital tools and technologies to achieve a particular outcome. It is also the ability to leverage technology to create now new knowledge and new challenges and even new problems, and to complement this with critical thinking, complex problem solving, and social intelligence to solve now the new challenges. So very briefly, we look at the aspects of the digital fluency as you can see from the slide. Earlier, we discussed the levers of e-learning to include technology, the tools, and innovation. Emerging technologies, we know for a fact now, impact all areas of higher education. These technologies include social media, mobile, analytics, and cloud computing. Apart from this, we also see the proliferation of technology tools. Depending on what you need to develop or what you need, the various tools now are available. This may include from storage, you have various tools from content management to learning management system tools. In this slide, we see that we are at a point where Internet of Things is the dominant technology, and that we must already be adopting a next generation learning management system. In about a year, we would now look at AI, or the artificial intelligence, as the dominant technology, and that here we see now a shift from a next generation learning management system to a natural user interfaces. So a natural user interface is a system for human computer interaction that the user operates through intuitive actions related to something natural. This natural is now an everyday human behavior. Natural user interface may be operated in a number of different ways depending on the purpose and user requirements. Now, this is an important technology consideration in the design and development of e-learning tools or even courses. Recent technological innovations are also transforming the educational landscape and filling the gaps that exist in present education systems. Innovations in the industry have consequent adaptations in the educational setting. These innovations, as you see from the screen, include the IoT, the human-robot collaboration, to big data analytics. Consequently, these revolutionary innovations impact now the education systems, as we see now that educational systems are characterized by advanced educational systems. We also have e-learning and e-training, social interactions, and collaboration. As academic educators, we have to confront the same changes, and we are bound to undergo the necessary adaptations. Although it often seems as if many of us are not willing to actually accept the fact to its full extent. And as we have seen from the previous slide about the growing technologies and capabilities, this also translates to a projected future of e-learning. Now from the slide, we can also see here some of these concepts or the future innovations or the future of e-learning, where the following concepts now will thrive: MOOC, OER, to user-generated and content curation, to responsive design, to big data, mobile learning, gamification, to cloud-based e-learning systems. Now, as educators, we must be prepared. As e-learning advocates, we must also be prepared. In conclusion,
E-learning has a great role to play in the future of education since it is an attractive form of learning preferred by modern learners. It is flexible and adaptable and offers great possibilities to utilize latest technologies or education trends. Taking steps to the future means we should be ready to embrace new technologies and new tools. Thank you very much for your kind attention.